Hi, I am Eric Jean, Assistant Professor at the Department of Archaeology of Hittite University in Çorum in Turkey. After studying history at the University of Nantes in France, I studied archaeology at the University of Paris 1 Panthéon-Sorbonne and specialized in the ancient Near East, particularly on the Hittites. I have been living in Turkey since 1996. The year after I defended my PhD, that can be translated as Societies and Powers in Cilicia in the Second Millennium BC, Archaeological Perspective, I became a faculty member at the Archaeology Department of Artuklu University in Mardin between 2011-2012. Having obtained the Turkish citizenship in 2012, to work again, I had to wait for the equivalence of all my diplomas. Since 2014, I work at Hittite University and serve there as the Deputy Director of the Hittite Civilization Research Center as well. After participating in excavations and surveys in various countries, I started the field in Turkey in 1993 in Göltepe, then continued with the excavations of Tilbeşar, Horumöyük, and Kuşaklı Sarısa, before joining that of Mersin Yumuktepe in 2012, of which I became the Deputy Director in 2014. The research project for which I applied for an ANAMED fellowship is entitled Mersin Yumuktepe during the Second Millennium BC, a reanalysis of its Middle and Late Bronze Age levels. Its aim is the publication of the Second Millennium BC levels from the excavations undertaken between 1993 and 2021, under the direction first of Professors Velisevin from Istanbul University and Isabella Caneva from Sapienza University in Rome, between 1993 and 2000, then under Isabella Caneva from Del Salento University in Lecce. As part of the series of Yumuktepe final reports, this publication is eagerly anticipated by the scientific community, given the difficulties of interpreting the Hittite presence in Yumuktepe due to the scarcity of published remains. Yumuktepe experienced two generations of excavations, that of John Gastang of the University of Liverpool in the years 1937-1947, and that of Sevin and Caneva. Although Gastang conducted in Yumuktepe one of the most modern excavations of his time, the final publication was disappointing, often repeating verbatim the only two existing preliminary reports and finds poorly described. This is partly because the original drawings, archived in England, were destroyed in an air attack during World War II. The topography of the Höyük having itself been modified, in particular when the site was transformed into a public park in the 1960s, it was difficult to relate the stratigraphy of the second generation to that of the first. Compared to the prehistoric periods, the second millennium also appears underrepresented in the recent excavation results. Nevertheless, the Hittite period was spotted and excavated in a step trench of the southern slope between 1997 and 1999 and from 2006 onwards, as well as on the eastern slope in 2004, 5 and in 2021. Architecturally, therefore, nothing remains of the earlier excavations findings, while the second generation has revealed very little. It should also be noted that no trace of Gastang's Hittite fortification, whose casemate walls, similar to those of the Hittite capital, had made the site famous, has been located by the new project. The only fortification wall identified with certainty in the step trench of the southern slope is entirely made of mud bricks and shows no Hittite character. The very limited architectural data nonetheless invite some thoughts about the fortification walls in the second millennium BC. In this context, much of the publication will be devoted to the pottery, which mainly comes from the southern steppe trench. The Hittite character of plain ceramics appears in the 15th century BC and is contemporary with the mud brick fortification wall. The occurrence of Hittite-type pottery is often interpreted as the political control of the central Hittite power, which is sometimes thought to have taken place in a homogeneous manner in the occupied territories. However, the assemblages of locally produced Hittite-related pottery differ from site to site in Cilicia and are sometimes accompanied by local or regional ceramics, from which geocultural microregions can be defined. From Yumuktepe and Solihöyük, Mersin emerges as a microregion interfacing between the rest of Plain Cilicia in the east and rough Cilicia in the west. Thus, in the 15th century BC, Late Bronze 1, the presence of red clustrous wheel-made ware in greater numbers in Yumuktepe and Solihöyük than in the rest of Plain Cilicia suggests a close link with rough Cilicia. This relationship with the West continued in Late Bronze II through the production of grooved ringed bows and painted ceramics, of which similar examples are found only in Kilisetepe and Solihöyük. The publication of the pottery of the southern steppe trench must also take into account differences in excavation contexts between the upper part, which is narrow and without any associated construction, thus of undetermined character, and the lower part, with a well-defined context dated by the fortification wall and adjacent rooms. Apart from these rooms, sealed by a thick layer of burnt bricks from the collapse of the fortification wall, the surest context comes from fill in the wall's foundation trench, inter-sealed by the rooms. It produced a large number of sherds, whose typological study and fabric analysis will offer a first statistical approach of the Late Bronze I assemblages. These can then be compared to the apparently contemporary assemblage, newly recovered on the eastern slope of the site. Comparison with Late Bronze II material should then provide a better understanding of the evolution of ceramic production over time. One of the main challenges posed by the ceramic study is to assess the importance of local or micro-regional character of pottery production and that of the Hittite impact. Thank you for your attention and see you soon to discuss the results of the projects.